Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that fire was never discovered. Not forgotten, not lost, never discovered. No campfires, no candles, no fireplaces, no engines, no power plants, no factories, no electricity, no smartphones, no modern civilization. At first, that might sound like a minor inconvenience. Life would just be a little colder, a little darker, a little harder. But the truth is much more extreme. Without fire, the world around you wouldn't simply look different, it would be unrecognizable. In fact, there's a very good chance that humans as we know them today would never have existed at all, because fire wasn't just another invention. It may have been the single most important discovery in human history. A discovery so important that nearly everything you see around you today can be traced back to it. So, what would actually happen if humans never discovered fire? To answer that question, we have to travel back hundreds of thousands of years to a time when humanity was still fighting for survival, and where one small spark changed everything. For most of human history, humans weren't the rulers of Earth. We weren't the strongest animals, we weren't the fastest, we weren't the deadliest. Compared to lions, bears, wolves, and countless other predators, humans were surprisingly vulnerable. We had no claws, no sharp teeth, no natural armor. A lone human standing in the wilderness wasn't an apex predator. They were often prey. Life was difficult. Every day was a struggle to find food. Every night was a struggle to stay alive. And then, somewhere in the distant past, humans learned to control fire. At first, they probably didn't know how to create it. They may have stolen it from lightning strikes or from natural wildfires, but eventually, they learned something no other animal ever did: how to keep a flame alive. And that changed the course of history forever. Fire provided warmth, protection, light, and perhaps most importantly, it transformed food. Today, cooking feels normal. It's something we rarely think about, but cooking may have been one of the most important breakthroughs in our entire evolutionary story. Because raw food is surprisingly difficult to eat. Imagine trying to survive on nothing but raw vegetables, roots, nuts, and uncooked meat. You could do it, but it would be exhausting. Raw food requires more chewing, more digestion, and more energy. Cooking changes that. Heat breaks down food before it even enters your body, making nutrients easier to absorb and calories easier to access. Without cooking, humans would need to spend much more of their day simply eating. In fact, some scientists believe that cooking allowed our ancestors to gain significantly more energy from the same amount of food, and that extra energy may have helped support something incredibly expensive: the human brain. Your brain only makes up a small percentage of your body weight, yet it consumes roughly 20% of your body's energy. That's an enormous amount. Large brains are costly, and without access to high energy foods, maintaining such a brain becomes difficult. Now, imagine a world where cooking never exists. Humans still eat, humans still survive, but they receive fewer calories and nutrients from their food. Over many generations, that could have profound consequences. Our brains might never have reached their current size. Our intelligence might never have reached its current level. No Einstein, no Newton, no scientists, no engineers, no programmers, no astronauts. The species capable of building civilizations might never emerge. Instead, humanity could remain much closer to its ancient ancestors, smarter than most animals, but nowhere near the species we are today. And food isn't the only problem. Let's talk about darkness. Today, night doesn't really matter. You flip a switch and your room lights up. You open your phone and a bright screen appears. You can work, study, drive, or socialize long after sunset. But before fire, darkness was a completely different experience. When the sun disappeared, the world changed. Visibility vanished, danger increased, predators became active, and humans became vulnerable. Fire extended the day. It allowed people to stay awake after sunset, to gather together, tell stories, teach children, share knowledge, plan hunts, build communities. Without fire, most of those activities become much harder. Sunset becomes a deadline. The moment darkness arrives, survival becomes the priority. Entire communities would likely retreat into shelters and wait for morning, night after night, generation after generation. It's possible that human culture itself would develop more slowly because people would simply have fewer hours in which to interact and learn from one another. And then there's another problem: cold. Humans are surprisingly bad at dealing with extreme cold. Without fire, surviving winter becomes dramatically harder. Entire regions of the planet might remain permanently inaccessible. Think about places like northern Canada, Siberia, Scandinavia, large parts of northern Europe. Today, millions of people live in these regions, but without fire, settling them becomes incredibly difficult. Human populations would likely remain concentrated in warmer climates. The expansion of humanity across the globe could slow dramatically, and some places might never be inhabited at all. Now, let's imagine thousands of years pass. Humans survive. They form tribes, communities, maybe even small settlements. Could civilization still emerge? This is where things get really interesting, because fire isn't just useful for survival, it's the foundation of technology itself. Think about almost every major material used by civilization: metal, glass, bricks, ceramics, steel, all of them require high temperatures. Without fire, none of these materials can be produced. No metal tools, no metal weapons, no metal farming equipment, no metal nails, no steel bridges, no skyscrapers. Humanity becomes trapped using materials that nature already provides: stone, wood, bone, animal hides, and while those materials are useful, they have limits. You can't build a modern city from sticks and rocks. You can't construct advanced machines from bone and wood. You can't create industrial civilization without transforming materials. And transformation requires heat. Imagine trying to build the modern world while permanently stuck with Stone Age technology. That's a challenge humanity would face. Now let's go even further. Imagine someone says, fine, maybe we don't need fire, we can just discover electricity. But there's a problem. Electricity doesn't appear out of nowhere. To understand electricity, humans first need science. To develop science, humans need tools. To create tools, humans need metal. To create metal, humans need fire. The entire chain leads back to the same place. Without fire, many of the discoveries that eventually lead to electricity may never happen. No copper wire, no generators, no motors, no power plants, no electrical grid, no internet, no computers, no artificial intelligence, no satellites orbiting Earth. The modern technological world collapses before it can even begin. And that means no trains, no airplanes, no cars, no ships powered by engines, no global trade networks, no industrial revolution. The world remains local, small, slow, isolated. Most people would spend their entire lives within a relatively short distance of where they were born. The idea of crossing oceans or exploring space would be unimaginable. Now, let's make this even more real. Imagine you are born into this world. You wake up with the sunrise because there are no electric lights, no alarm clocks, no glowing screens, no heated homes. Your first task of the day isn't checking messages, it's finding food. The food is raw, the work is constant. Much of your day revolves around simply getting enough calories to survive. As the hours pass, you're always aware of the weather, because weather isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. A cold day can become deadly. A storm can threaten your survival. And as evening approaches, a familiar feeling begins to spread. Anxiety. Darkness is coming. There are no streetlights, no flashlights, no lanterns, no campfires. When the sun disappears, the world belongs to the dark. Every sound feels threatening. Every shadow feels suspicious. Most people retreat into shelter and wait for sunrise. And this becomes normal. Not for days, not for years, but for thousands of generations. No cities, no highways, no airports, no factories, no glowing skylines visible from space. Humanity remains locked in a world that looks far more like prehistory than the modern age. And the strangest part, nobody would know what they're missing, because the modern world would never have existed. But perhaps the biggest question is this: would humans still become Earth's dominant species? Many people assume intelligence alone made us successful, but intelligence wasn't enough. Dolphins are intelligent, crows are intelligent, chimpanzees are intelligent, yet none of them built civilizations, because intelligence needs tools. Tools need technology. Technology needs energy. And for humans, fire was the first great source of that power. Without it, our species loses its greatest advantage. Humans might still exist, but we may simply become another intelligent animal sharing the planet with countless others. Never building cities, never creating science, never walking on the moon, never sending spacecraft beyond our solar system, never asking questions like this one. When people think about humanity's greatest inventions, they'll often think of the wheel, electricity, the internet, modern medicine, but all of those inventions came much later. Fire was different. Fire was the invention that made every other invention possible. It extended the day, protected our ancestors, improved nutrition, supported larger brains, allowed metalworking, created industry, powered engines, generated electricity. In a strange way, nearly every piece of technology around you right now can trace its origins back to humanity's ability to control flame. The building you're sitting in, the road outside, the device you're watching this on, even the satellites orbiting high above Earth, all of them exist because somewhere in the distant past, humans learned to harness fire. So what would happen if humans never discovered it? The answer is surprisingly simple. No fire, no civilization, no modern technology, no industrial revolution, no connected world, and perhaps no humans as we know them today. Because fire didn't just change civilization, it may have created it. And perhaps the real question isn't, what would happen if humans never discovered fire? Maybe the real question is, would humans ever become human without it? One spark changed everything, and without that spark, history itself might never have begun.